welcome to Brigtsen's Restaurant in Uptown New Orleans. My name is Frank Brigtsen, and today we're going to be preparing for you one of our most popular dishes, trout meuniere with shrimp and roasted pecans. The first thing we're going to do is pan fry the fish. And I've got a beautiful fresh fish fillet here. We want to season it, both sides, lightly and evenly, so that every bite tastes the same. And then this is going to go into seasoned flour. We're going to heat up our oil. It's very important in pan frying that you have just a little bit of oil so it's not going over the top of the fish. In this flour we also have some seafood seasoning, and this fish will be double battered. In other words, this is going to go into seasoned flour and then into egg wash, which is eggs and milk, and then back into the seasoned flour. And it's very important when frying foods that you only batter the foods once the oil is hot. And so we can see that our oil is hot now. We're going to drop the fish fillet into hot oil. Now, with trout meuniere, which is one of the most popular dishes in Creole cuisine, we have to understand a little bit of the history of it. And meuniere, the style of cooking fish a la meuniere, comes to us from the French. Now, in classic French cuisine, the fish is just dusted with flour and sautéed in butter. And that's very good. But the fish doesn't stay crispy, and that's why I like to pan fry it. Now, my meuniere is a little different from the classic French. The French will do a brown butter in the same skillet that the fish was cooked in, and then add some parsley and lemon juice, and that's it. That goes over the fish, and it's delicious. This sauce is a little bit different. We're adding roasted pecans and shrimp also, but the difference in the style of the sauce is that this is going to be an emulsified sauce, which means we're going to use a combination of shrimp stock and butter to make a sauce that's very rich and buttery tasting, but because of the use of stock, it's also very palatable and lighter on the digestive system. So it's a very rich sauce, but it feels much lighter than it really is. The classic French meuniere is melted butter on a plate, which is delicious, but it can be a little heavy. Now, the important thing to remember also is the type of fish that you use. Typically in New Orleans cuisine, speckled trout is the desirable fish for this, but we can't always get speckled trout, so you have to be flexible and a little bit knowledgeable about fish. Today we're actually using flounder, which is a wonderful fish for this dish. I actually prefer this to trout. The fish is a lot like meat. It's tender, mild, and flaky. We can see that the fish is browning on the edges and that the batter is starting to form on the bottom. You only want to turn the fish one time. Otherwise it will absorb oil and be a little bit greasy. So we're going to turn the fish over carefully in our skillet. And you can see that the oil is nice and hot so that we're getting a nice crispy batter. And it's bone dry. It's not absorbing oil. That's important with fried foods. Now this is a very thin fillet, and the thickness of the fish is a big factor as well. You want something that's no more than a third of an inch thick. That way the batter forms and the fish cooks. Now, although many people love meuniere, very few understand the history of it and what the word actually means. In French cuisine, this dish is often done with sole, which is actually a big flat fish like a flounder. And you'll see filet of sole à la meuniere. Well, what does that mean exactly? Well, à la meuniere means in the style of the miller's wife. That means the gentleman in the village that mills the flour. So that tells us that flour is an important part of this dish. And indeed, if you look at this skillet, you'll see little brown bits of flour at the bottom of the skillet, and that's an important part of the meuniere sauce. These little brown bits of flour add a certain nuttiness and depth of flavor to the sauce, and that's why we want to make the sauce in the same skillet where we cook the fish, to utilize those little brown bits of flour. Very important. Fish is almost done. Now, how can you tell when the fish is done? Well, the fish is done if you can put your finger through it, but don't put your finger through it. Fish, when it cooks, gets very soft and delicate, and that's what we're looking for. Now, we're going to put this fish onto a drain pan, turn it, and let it drain for a little bit. And meanwhile, we're going to make the sauce. Now, what we want to do is carefully pour off this hot oil, saving the little brown bits of flour that are at the bottom of the skillet. That's a very important part of the sauce. And into the skillet, we're going to add some butter. This is unsalted butter. And like the French, we're going to make a brown butter, a beurre noisette. Shake the butter until it turns very dark brown. It'll get a nutty aroma. That's what we're looking for. Once that happens, I'm going to add a couple of shrimp, fresh Louisiana shrimp. Saute them just until they turn pink on the outside. And then I'm going to add some Louisiana pecans. These pecans have been roasted at 350 degrees for about 25 minutes. We're going to add some green onions, a little bit of garlic, and shake that up. A little bit of our seafood seasoning. Shake that up. And then into the liquids. Now, a New Orleans meuniere typically has a pretty good dose of Lea and Perrins, and ours does too. About 5 shakes. And then this is where this sauce gets interesting. We're going to add some shrimp stock and bring that to a boil. And then you can reduce the heat to very low. We're going to add a little bit of lemon juice. Very important ingredient in meuniere. And as this stock comes to the boil, we're going to finish the sauce with, yes, more butter. And you can do this on very low heat or no heat. Shake, shake, shake until the butter melts into the stock. You can always add a little more stock if necessary. You can see now that the meuniere sauce has a nice creamy consistency, not oily looking at all. Even though it has quite a bit of butter, it's that stock that gives it a light creamy texture. Now, to plate the fish, put that on the plate, and then I'm going to add some of the sauce and roasted pecans. And then on top, the shrimp. And you can do this with just pecans or shrimp or crab meat, whatever you like. I really like the sweetness of the shrimp in this sauce. And that is one delicious fish dish. This is flounder meuniere with shrimp and roasted pecans from Brigtsen's restaurant right here on Dante Street. This is real New Orleans cooking.